me, being a Star Trek fan the last few years has been difficult at best. I sort of kind of liked the Star Trek reboot movies just because they clearly established themselves as a whole separate timeline. I didn't care for the Into Darkness movie just because I thought they could do so much better than just a simple Wrath of Khan ripoff, which ultimately that movie was, with a few reversed roles. It just didn't do it for me. And then, of course, there was Star Trek Discovery. You know, I really tried with that show. I gave it about a good 7 to 8 episodes. Everyone was just claiming that this new Discovery was the great, wonderful thing in the future of Star Trek and everything else. And I tried, man. I really tried to watch that. It was just bad and nonsensical and messy and explodey and just didn't do it for me. So when they announced the new Star Trek Picard series, I was optimistic, but also very, very cautious. Picard is one of my favorite Star Trek characters, and I have a real soft spot for Next Gen. I was afraid that even with Patrick Stewart being back in the title role, it wouldn't be what I remembered as Next Generation. It would be this explodey, cluttered mess that just, Discovery. But the thing is that Picard is different. It's very, very different from the Next Generation, but it's different in the right way. What is interesting to me about Star Trek Picard, or as I'll just call it now, Picard, it is set after the events of Star Trek Nemesis, but it's also set after the 2009 reboot movie. Picard is no longer captain of the Enterprise E. Data was killed in Nemesis. Romulus was destroyed. The Federation as we knew it is dark and grim and uncaring. A lot of people associate Starfleet with utopia and idealism and everything is perfect and wonderful, but I think they showed Starfleet was pretty rotten early on. If you remember, there were episodes like Conspiracy with those little pink creepy bug things, one of the goriest episodes of Star Trek. And then of course you had Insurrection, where Starfleet was totally okay with relocating an entire planet full of people to get these healing rings that were surrounding the planet. So while Starfleet presenting an ideal front, there's some dirty things that go on under the surface. And that's where we are with Picard. The former captain is disgusted with how Starfleet has become cold and self-serving, turning its back on people in need no matter who it is, and he resigns from Starfleet and goes back to his chateau in France. One of the things that people forget is that Star Trek really has provided social commentary since the original series. It's easier to share important social messages and issues if you put it hundreds of years in the future and you put some antennae on somebody. I think it's important for television shows like this to share these messages, but at the same time you want to be able to come to those conclusions on your own. You certainly lead the horse to water, but to change up that phrase, I don't want to be lectured at the same time. Picard is a much slower and more thoughtful show. It gives you a little bit of time to take in the characters, really catch up on the backstory, which honestly I'm much more interested in. Star Trek has always been about the future, and yet we had Enterprise and Discovery going back into the past before Kirk's era. You cause all these retcon issues and all these continuity errors, and I know nerd and all that stuff, but at the same time it's like, well, you can't really explain all the other shows because they've made absolutely no reference to them. Discovery was so technologically advanced, even the stuff set in the current time, Next Gen or Picard or Voyager or DS9 or whatever you want to call it, it looked outdated even by Discovery standards. How do you explain the Enterprise 10 years later? They just didn't care. They just flat out didn't care how to retcon or explain this super futuristic ship that was just before. This show gives you a lot of time to really take in the action. It's very character driven, which I appreciate. And even though it's not technically a sequel to The Next Generation, there's a lot of Easter eggs for old school fans, but at the same time it's not this big remember this, remember this. One of the things I really like about this new series is the fact that it really asks deeper questions, like what do you do when an institution defines your entire identity, your entire career, your entire livelihood suddenly becomes cruel or loses its morals or becomes self-serving. Picard is not all slow and methodical and plotting. It is an episodic show in the sense where it's not the one and done missions like Next Gen is. It's a lot of character building and a lot where are we now, where is Jean-Luc now? And trying to understand the relationship of this mysterious girl that literally appears at his doorstep, this girl named Daj. Now here's where I'm going to get into spoilers, because there's a couple things you really can't talk about the whole forward plot of this episode without just talking about the actual plot. Dahj is heavily implied to be the daughter of Data. I know that in Next Gen, Data had a prior daughter named Lol, but this is another girl created with the idea of Data in mind, built off a fragment of his positronic net. I don't know if they captured it, I don't know if they cloned it, I don't know if they stored it in backup somewhere, but they have a bit of his essence, and now they're using it to create synthetic hybrid that are real flesh and blood as well. So Picard, meeting this girl, now wants to devote everything he can into protecting her. And there's two of these girls, which is fortunate, but also kind of weird in the sense that they place so much emphasis on Dahj and all these previews and all these build-ups. So who's this mysterious girl? She gets killed in the first few minutes of them having their first run and gun fight. There's the second daughter of Data's, that I guess she will be the real. I guess the first one was like the red herring, and now this will be the real one that we'll focus on. Ultimately, the episode ends with Romulans holding base somewhere off in Federation space. I'm guessing it's somewhere undiscovered that the Federation has no idea this is going on. The Romulans that are refugees from their destroyed homeworld are now rebuilding a Borg cube. Personally, I think that's going to go extremely bad for everyone involved. It's funny reading fan theory about what people think this is going to mean. I don't see this as a team up between the Romulans and the Borg, because the Borg do not team up with anyone, that one little sub-story of Voyager notwithstanding. The Romulans are going to snoop around this Borg cube that they're trying to rebuild to regain their strength. Obviously, they're going to either find something that is going to re-trigger an assimilation outbreak, or they think they're probably going to be able to do like Romulan Borg hybrids where they're in full control of the implants and it's going to end badly. I could predict, and we'll see how it goes, but I predict the big season 1 ender is that the Borg is fully back and ready to assimilate the galaxy once again. Watching Picard was an emotional journey for me. I grew up watching these characters, and I loved the main 7 cast members of Next Gen. Picard has been having these dreams of Data, and Brent Spiner's back, and he's an older Data for sure, but he's like a dream Data. Just seeing those two have conversations together, it generated a genuine deep feeling in me that just, it reminded me how much I loved these characters growing up and how much they meant to me. At that point, I was pretty much sold on whatever they want to do, I'm totally fine with. I think these new characters are going to be interesting. The Doctor seems interesting. The second Data daughter, I can't remember her name right now, Soji, maybe? I'm going to have to go back and check that, but let's just use that for now. I think these characters have some potential to be really interesting, and I can't wait to see what ragtag bunch of adventurers that Picard is going to cobble together for this great adventure, because right now he's trying to go out and preserve Data's legacy. I could also see part of that season 1 ender where even if it's not Data / Brent Spiner specifically, I can see him bringing back a Data-like synthetic. Apparently, while evacuating Romulus, all the synthetics on Mars went rogue and blew up the shipyards of Starfleet, and that's why they turned their back on them, and it's complicated. I'm sure we'll get more backstory on that aspect as well, but I don't know. But basically, Starfleet is racist against Romulans, and Starfleet is racist against synthetics as well. Or would that be speciest, I guess? Would it be speciest? Yeah, sure, why not? And previews have been showing other old Next Gen alumni, such as Riker and Troy and 7 of 9 from Voyager, so they're really going into, this is a true continuation of the Next Generation and that whole era of 90s plus Star Trek. And it's been confirmed for season 2, so we will have Jean-Luc and company back for quite some time, at least for the next few years. While this potentially has that horrible sense of this could be another grim dark Trek thing that they've been doing for the last few years, there's almost a glimmer of hope that somewhere along the way Picard will regain his own light and use that to shed light into the Star Trek future. That's part of the journey of Star Trek. It's not only going out there to explore the galaxy, it's also exploring what it means to be human and the human condition and what makes us the way we are. For a premiere episode, I loved Picard. I thought it was good. It clicked all the right buttons. Certainly there are some things that aren't explained, and I'm hoping in due time all the backstory will be filled out. We'll start getting on that big adventure. I'm hoping the end result will be satisfying and lead into season 2, or we get even more adventure and more mysteries. And, you know, the overall mystery of this season's arc so far doesn't seem stupid. It seems like it has potential. It seems like it could be fun. It's not going to be some ridiculous ripoff or patronizing. So far, I'm liking what I see, and I can definitely recommend Picard as the first Star Trek in probably 10 years that legitimately looks really good. Those are my thoughts on Star Trek Picard. When the series wraps up, I'll do an overall season 1 review just to share what I thought about it. And hopefully I got a couple predictions right, and hopefully it surprises me, but in good ways. Be sure to click like, subscribe, comment, all the other good stuff that you're supposed to do on these videos, and I will see you that next time. Take care.